are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this show is about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have shows and topics.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Monday, Tuesday,
Happy days.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Happy days.
Friday, whatever.
Happy days.
What a day. Na-na-na, na-na-na.
I love you.
I love you too.
Best known as the mom from Happy Days, and she is a delightful 89-year young Marion Ross to my studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dr. Marissa, this is such a treat for me.
Oh.
My goodness, you're a wonderment.
Which is exactly the kind of guest that I like. Those who have gone through life, good and bad, and then taken those experiences to alchemize them into the person they are now and doing good on the planet. I'd like you to welcome Corey Feldman.
If you're grateful for it and you say right away, thank you, God. Oh, my God, it's so beautiful. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then guess what? More good things will come to you.
Does this sound familiar at all? She's back again to mark my Cancer Awareness and Prevention Month show. Please welcome Fran Drescher. Hi, Fran.
On and supporting cancer schmance. I really appreciate it.
So what would you say are some of the biggest myths, Fran, that people have about cancer?
Well, I would say that they think that there's a cure for it.
Okay.
Instead of a cause for it.
This is the first call-in show when I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And people call in to get their life tires balanced and their critical thinking or their BS, their belief systems, smog checked. And today I am delighted to have Malie calling in from Birmingham, Alabama.
We could go 90 days and end up having terrible sex. And then you say, well, the relationship's not all about sex. Well, if I'm not getting great sex from you, then I'm going to get it from somebody else. Right?
That moose just got put on the table. And I see Josh and Jim.
I have to agree
You're
with Clyde.
both nodding. Ramon's sort of half nodding because his wife's listening. But
I understood what was going to happen if Muhammad Ali's youngest daughter, made public that I was going to become a boxer. So I wanted to make sure this was the path that I wanted to go down.
You are absolutely fabulous, beautiful inside and out. And I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award today.
Thank you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone.
Are you lonely?
No.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be
But
the answer.
I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I can come over.
Come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Get off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Audible, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, and more. I am Dr. Marissa, your hashtag positively opinionated host, and I am here because this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kanye talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. Why not 100% of the time? Because I don't want dead people walking. No one is 100% happy all the time. 88% is a good goal. You have a little contrast in there, and 8 is a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homophone for good fortune, and that's what you are about to get a dose of. If you've missed any of my 900 and, oh, my banner's not up here. Let's see, how many shows are we on? 987, close to that 1,000 mark. Anybody who said a show about hope and happiness would not exist, I'm so glad that you're wrong, but very nicely so. And I'm also so delighted that I get to bring back people who have been on the show before. If you missed the first time Farron was on, and then he dragged in Caldwell, and I just had a lovely interview with him. And some of you may know that I, during COVID, hashtag BC19, the time before COVID, I was doing a lot of traveling, motivational speaking. I had a best-selling book, and then COVID shut me down, and I was sitting going, okay, now what? And I found out that I actually love making films and starting, small little posts, and Meta contacted me and said, would you like to be a digital creator? We'd like you to be a digital creator for us. And I'm like, what the heck's that? And they said, just do what you're doing and we'll pay you. I'm like, okay, that sounds very good. And that went forward and forward and forward. And now this is my third film that y'all are going to get to preview. And it just is getting released today. The official release is today. And if you're asking, what is that about? Then you're looking at my co-director to the left. He is Farron Dozier, and the subject matter expert in this show, in this film, is Caldwell Williams. And he is a master educator. The title of the film is, and they don't even know this because I wanted to spring this on them. I didn't want them to, certainly, if I've done something horrible, we will fix it. But I did want this to be the launch and to get their reactions to the film, which is 40 minutes and 40 seconds long.
Yeah.
It's not my first film, PPP, Post-Pandemic Possibilities, was only 9 minutes and 28 seconds. And then my second was a music video that was 2 minutes and 58 seconds. So this is a huge jump for me. So I hope you enjoy it. First, please welcome to my studio, Farron Dozier and Caldwell Williams.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Caldwell.
I'm eager to hear and see.
Good. We're going to have a real quick breakfast instead of doing a whole 8 gratitudes and appreciations. What's one thing that you are grateful for this morning? I am grateful that, gosh, I love drinking creative juice in the morning. all day, all my life. I'm so grateful that I got to do this project. What are you grateful for, Farron?
I'm grateful for my church's prayer line that I get to give my first fruits of my voice to God in the mornings.
Caldwell.
I'm grateful for my church parish community. I'm 89 years old, and for 27 years, these friends have been supportive, loving, and welcoming.
Beautiful. And then, what are you appreciative of? Now, this is a little different than gratitude. Top of the bun was gratitude. Bottom of the bun is, what do you like about yourself? And I believe that one of the foundations of mental health, good mental health, is the ability to approve of yourself, to soothe yourself, to care about yourself, so you're not always looking for love in all the wrong places, which is, who likes me literally. So I do this on purpose to get people comfortable with saying, I like that about myself. Because if you can't approve of yourself, how the fork do you expect anyone to approve of you? So I'm going to start with that. I appreciate that I am funny, and I love making people laugh. It's my favorite sound in the world, and that's what I appreciate. Go ahead, Farron.
I appreciate my skills to analyze things in life. Very analytical person. It worked great in the military. It didn't work so well in my what I would call my personal life, but as I've developed it and strengthened that, I love the ability to analyze and to listen and catch things, and yeah, so very analytical person.
Beautiful. Caldwell.
I appreciate that I'm blessed to see opportunity and change. I have been fortunate all my life never to see change as threatening, but look for opportunity. And once I discover that, I find that that's useful to pass on to others. So that's been kind of the core of my professional existence. There's always opportunity and change. Look for it.
Absolutely. All right. And that is it for Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and her guests. And we're going to just jump right in to this labor of love. Here we go.
Wow.
This is Dr. Marissa. You know me as the Asian Oprah. And today I'm delighted to have a very special guest. You saw him on my show, and we just had to continue on the conversation because his foundational truths are going to help us finally get to a place where people are real humankind. His name is Caldwell Williams. Please welcome him to my life. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Caldwell.
The pleasure's mine.
Absolutely. Your grandparents were born slaves.
My mother's father was the firstborn son of the slave owner and one of his slaves. My first 10 years, we lived in the South.
Where?
Cass County, East Texas, near the Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas corner. They call it Piney Woods because pine trees grow like grass. The last published report of a lynching of a black man happened in that county in which I was born, Cass County, East Texas. A couple of white boys dragged the black man behind the pickup truck with his legs chained to the truck. So that gives you some indication of the culture of that community, even as we approached the 21st century. I was aware, because my family accepted and behaved accordingly, that the requirement, I was almost about to say the custom, but no, it was a requirement a black person, if you met a white person in town, you stepped off the sidewalk and deferred.
When did you discover that you were part of a race that was not treated equally and well?
I cannot identify a point at which there was some aha moment, but it was ingrained in the culture and all of my experiences. The community to which I belonged was separate. Schools, church, household.
You went to school. I understand you were at UCLA, where I also taught. So yay, Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins. And you became a graduate who could not get a job from UCLA. I'm
Yes.
just summarizing
You're right.
some of the stuff we had in our interview.
With a degree in
And then
business.
With a degree in business, and you could not get a job.
Could not get
Could not
interviews.
get any job, right? And you have this background where your grandfather was a slave, and then your father has scars on his back, and you have personally felt the kind of discrimination and prejudice personally.
I call it
tangentially,
exclusion.
Exclusion. And yet, when you were on my show, and this is why we're here, the thing that just blew my socks off, where every time I tried to get you to blame the white man or blame the whites or blame the race, nothing against whites, but putting people who were the active discriminator on the spot, every single time I tried to do it during the interview, you said, but, and you would say, they were also victims. They were also, and it was like, I remember after the interview saying to Farron, I just cannot get him to hate. I can't get him to blame. And so I need this man on camera again because you have in that approach or that BS, that belief system, I believe the answer to how this humanity of ours, this society of ours is going to make the changes necessary. And that's why you're here. Why is it that you don't hate those who have done you wrong? Or why is it that you talk about not blaming when it comes to prejudice and racism?
In 88 years, you learn things, but I became aware of the difference in my life experience when I behave as though I can and I am responsible versus blaming and waiting for someone else to make my life better. And when I tested the efficacy of that notion, I produced more results. And I'm results oriented.
Yes.
I want to solve the problem.
So I want to repeat this so that we all get this, because I think this is a big nugget, that if all of us in America, in other countries in the world, if we moved from who's to blame for my unhappiness, who's to blame for my non-success, to what am I responsible for, and what do I need to do to change what I do not like or the circumstances that I am in. Is that what you're saying? That is the shift
Precisely.
that you learn. Yes. So nugget number one. If you want to change your life, if you want something different, quit blaming other people for the circumstance that you're in. And that teaching is so missing from many homes, from many schools, right? From many your friendships, because everybody's right there. Can you believe? And da 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 da, and it's all that way, right? It's not, oh, I messed up,
Mhm.
right? It's the blame game.
When I meet, whatever the circumstances, test the efficacy of my approach. What is this experience telling me about me?
Mm,
What's needed here?
mm.
What's needed here in the micro? What's, and I mean, the macro and the micro. I mean, I can look. And when I look, I will always get ideas. As long as I look, the ideas will come. Salient point is take responsibility for looking rather than blaming. What's needed here? I think if there were 10 important questions in the world, this would be the first 8. What's needed here? What's needed here? What's needed here? And you will discover that your brain works as well as mine, and you will get ideas about what's needed here. And I have taught that concept to children as young as 6 years old in first grade, which is where my wife worked, and their parents, all the way to, and this says something about my perception of hierarchy, the 6 regional vice presidents of the Xerox Corporation, to the same effect. Hadn't thought of it that way before. And when I shared this concept in a high school with 16, 17, and 18-year-olds in 2023, these now 60-year-olds say it made a difference in my life, and I still live by that.
Let's move to veterans, because we are currently really, we don't have what's needed here. We don't have an answer to what's needed here. We have definitely become more and more aware of mental health suffering that is going on with veterans. You have a program that you actually help veterans. So how can we better serve those who have been serving us?
Heroin was as accessible as popcorn in Southeast Asia. And the terror of going into the jungle to kill, which is what you're trained to do, was relieved by being stoned on heroin.
Wow.
And so the leadership, the brass, looked the other way because it did not diminish their ability to kill. And these veterans, these Black veterans with whom I was working, all acknowledged, yeah, I got addicted, and it made it easier for me to kill gooks. Remember, the enemy is objectified as not human. The current objectification is terrorists. And then it was gooks, and then it was Nazis. And, I'm a veteran. Part of the basic training, first orientation, is you learn, they don't give you the language, you learn to objectify the other. And that makes it easy for you to become a killing machine. Unpredicted consequences of looking the other way. When young white commissioned officers who were the predominant leadership in the military in Vietnam offended you, it was easy to, when he wasn't looking, drop a grenade on him. And a new term was invented, fragging. Mostly white military leadership in Vietnam were being killed by their own troops, fragged by offended, young, unsophisticated, angry, vengeful military heroin addicts.
Wow, that is, I've never heard that.
What? Assiduously, the Department of Defense, we don't want the public to know about this.
Right, obviously.
We're losing control of our troops.
Yeah.
By our own actions, by looking for
The other way.
the other way. Let me finish with these kids, these young men, or whatever they were. They didn't want to go back to South when he got out. because it was still this Jim Crow.
Uh-huh.
So they came to Los Angeles and Oakland, and they tried to stay in the West. How'd you survive? We hustled. Well, what does that mean? Petty criminals. That's all we know how to do. One by one, all of them ended up in California prisons, Folsom, San Quentin, wherever, where in their condition, they were totally susceptible to Elijah Muhammad, who said to them, don't you get who your enemy is? It's the white man, it's the devil. So Elijah Muhammad objectified the white man. Totally believable to these young men. By any means necessary, you must take control. They all joined him, joined his gang, only to find disappointment because they learned that he was a con man. Virtually all of them had found something that was positive in their exposure to his version of Islam.
Right.
And so they had gravitated to conventional or legitimate Islam when I met them. Now, fast forward to the attack on the Capitol by white boys. Susceptible background to the conspiracy con. It's the deep state that's your enemy, that your government is your enemy. There is plentiful copies of tape of their president, Ronald Reagan, saying, government doesn't solve your problem. Government is your problem. And so these people who came from the hinterlands of America, but all suffering a similar experience, you articulated it very well, failure in life, personal frustration, totally susceptible to anybody who comes along and say, it's not your fault.
That blame thing.
It's your deep state government that's your fault. Or it's these people of color who are trying to come and take over your country. I'm going to give you your country back.
Well, that was Hitler's thing too.
Well, that's precisely it. And that has been around ever since there's been a nation.
Forever.
And so
okay, I'm getting it.
So the white boys marched on the Capitol. The black boys sell bean pies, and they're standing back to back. If they turn around and spoke to one another, they would see that they're doing exactly the same thing, blaming somebody else.
This is why. So
And
this
so
is
the answer is major first transition in life, transition from elementary to middle school. The vast majority of children adjust reasonably successful to the surrogate mom, who's the one teacher, and 20 peers. It's more difficult than your household, except there are a few of us who come from households that big, right? But moving from that secure environment, 5 teachers, 5 moms, and 1,000 peers without the skills to navigate.
Elementary school to high school.
But the middle school is those middle years where you're not even in high school yet.
Right.
Terrified, susceptible to whoever would blow in your ear and say, I want you. Gang. So predators of all types, gangs, religion, crime, sexual. And therein, in that transition, is created the problem that the culture pays for the rest of their lives. Welfare, criminal justice, and we keep paying and paying and paying without ever properly diagnosing the problem. And so the problem doesn't get solved. We've identified 3 skill sets crucial to more self-reliant navigation of one's own life through this culture. And it needs to be taught when the children are accessible and available to learn, because those first elementary school years, they're like sponges. There's absorbing. Part of the transition, the way the evolution from childhood to adulthood, we go through our questioning phase. Why do we do this? Why? And the unsophisticated, unaware, and uneducated parent says, because I said so.
Yeah.
Now don't bother
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And so, opportunity for the predator to step in. I've got your answers. Come join me. In the schools with the children with whom we're some degree successful are those experiences where the teacher must acknowledge your importance to me in my job. Driver's education teacher, band leaders, athletic coaches treat children differently than the conventional cognitive math, science, chemistry.
Interesting.
And what I found as a guidance counselor, I discovered sitting in the counseling office, typical science teacher. Okay, first day of school, first day of class. Let me tell you out front, 40% of you are going to fail. Band leader doesn't say that. Even the drama coach doesn't say that.
Objectification is a automatic occurrence if you do not teach someone to be aware of what is going on so that they can choose differently. So when you don't have a strong enough understanding or a strong enough mind to say, hey, wait a minute, you're telling me things that I don't really think that's true, that mind can actually have a defense against objectification. But the mind that has very little support, very little love, very little nurturing is fertile ground for someone with ill intention to come in and sway you or easily manipulate you into believing whatever they want. From the bully and the child or the cool gang on the playground, school ground, all the way up to government, army, navy, who objectifies the Vietnamese or the Korean people as gooks and people to be able to have them kill them. Like that sounded to me like the breadth of this thing called objectification that is just a natural occurrence when we have no defense against it.
Look back in history at kind of this is a blip on the map, this ancient Greek idea of a democracy. Hell, let's try that as our rationale for putting our gig together. And because we have so much space and so few people, let's welcome everybody, no matter your tribe. This is aspirational. Nobody had published and talked about this before. But what they didn't consider was imposing an idea of one person, one vote, of government of and by the people, inspiring idea. But what they didn't consider, and they still haven't considered, is it doesn't work to impose that aspirational idea on your old autocratic potentate system. Because in that system, the people are told, your king has all the answers. You just do what you're told. And that's where that is the culture from whence we all evolved. And that still resonates with our reptilian brain because it's been around the longest. Now, go to the Constitutional Convention. These New Englanders, who were the proponents of this democracy, this aspirational idea, came up against their brother, and I'm talking about Englishmen now, their brothers who owned slaves. And the brothers who owned slaves said, and then this isn't written in the history books, but I guarantee you this is what happened. Boys who owned slaves. No. We have more slaves than there are us.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't buy this democratic bullshit. And unpublished in our history books is the wink and nod from the New Englanders who said, okay, do your thing down there.
Interesting.
And the Southerners never, then nor now, talk about democracy. They talk about republic. Republic, the power is in the state. And this whole notion of one man, one vote, they got their Supreme Court to say, no, black folk are only 3/5 of a human. Objective, they're objects. Yeah. And so the Northeasterners did a wink and nod. Okay, do your thing down there. Ivy League schools are all in the Northeast. They were all started by churches. Mm-hmm. There is no Ivy League school in the South because they didn't give a damn about education. They wanted to control their slaves.
Right.
And
okay, that makes sense.
And and so the development of this nation is the product of Northeastern effort, which simultaneously created and still promotes resentment, victimization of the people who experience themselves as excluded from this wonderful experiment. Mm-hmm. And they talk about it, if you listen, those elite, and then later those elite Hollywood, and the masses of middle America are as equally unachieving, resentful, and joined in when they got a guy, starting with Reagan, who said, your government is your problem. Reagan's first political speech after getting the nomination was in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The dog whistle, and the 3 civil rights workers had been murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi. It didn't even have a traffic signal. But Reagan made his first speech there saying to them, I'm your boy. And the present insurrectionist movement sprang out of that, because all over the nation, from middle America, et cetera, you're talking my language. And I mentioned to Ron at the beginning of the day, 2 days ago, I had an epiphany because for years, I'd been struck by Reagan saying, I didn't leave the Democrats left me. I didn't know what that meant. I now know what the Ku Klux Klan was created in Indiana, Reagan's home state. Wow. Every Midwestern state during Jim Crow in the South had sunset laws. Sunset laws meant if you were Black, you had to be out of town by 6 o'clock. But the press and the media didn't cover that. Mm-hmm. Their sympathies were with the Southern brothers from the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And first Reagan, and then more explicitly, Trump tapped into that. Mm-hmm. And they are in terms of the total population, they are a dwindling proportion, which produces desperation. And we are now seeing
desperation and action.
Desperation and action. Mm-hmm. Marching on the Capitol and all that crazy stuff. Yeah. Whether the government will have the courage to prosecute its own laws.
What do we need here?
Yes.
That's the question.
The middle school.
Yeah.
Catch them
early.
Nip it in the bud.
What kind of skills do people need so they are not so susceptible to being co-opted into other people's objectification?
Skills for organized, systematic thinking and planning. Secondly, skills for empowering dialogue. Third skill set, skills for assertively managing change or transition. Rather than experiencing change or transition as a threat to my survival, rather than being victimized by change, what's needed here? So that you become a part of the equation rather than a victim. I find that strengthening these skill sets, we call them foundation skills, improves one's confidence and one's ability to navigate the culture with confidence, power, and dignity, which is itself healing and rehabilitating to the individual. And we've tested the efficacy of these foundation skills K through 12.
So those skills are part of a curriculum that you actually wrote up because you knew that children who did not have these skills were going to be either prey to those who were stronger, or the bully group, or whatever group it was that wanted to co-opt you into their own purposes by getting you to objectify the enemy, whatever that group was. So having these skills, listening, the organizational planning, and the third one is I did pretty good. I got 2 out of 3 right.
Yes,
So
right.
The third one is
assertively approaching change and transition, and
not being a victim.
not passively.
Got it. Got it.
You need to take the initiative. Change is happening to me. What's the opportunity for me?
Right.
Which is a shift in that
Right.
Frame of reference.
Right. So this curriculum you're actually teaching now. At
Yes.
88, you'll
Yes,
never retire.
right.
You're just like me. So
Well, I would say
mhm.
my intention is to empty this brain into more vigorous, young, bright, ambitious people who can carry on the work. My days are numbered. I don't know how many, but my philosophy is time to hustle buns.
Which is why you're here.
Which is why I'm here. Children who hurt children are in pain themselves. And I would generalize that further. Any human who hurts another human is responding to their own pain.
Wow. Yeah, when you said that on the show, that went like that was one of those moments of hurt people. And I'd heard it before, but it really didn't hit me. It didn't hurt my heart. I didn't like, oh, that totally makes sense. And yet we turn on the bully.
Oh,
we
yes.
turn on the hurter, right? Because they're evil.
Yeah, and so you simply reinforce what they already believe.
And you mentioned
I'm bad and I deserve it.
What happened to George Floyd was horrible. Him dying at the foot of the policeman, and then you went, but nowhere has there been any understanding or effort to understand or have empathy that he also was maybe hurt people maybe, but more so that he was doing his job the same way that a soldier that we started this conversation with does his job to kill the gooks in the war because they've been objectified. So Black men have been objectified by the police as the bad ones.
And so the policeman who vows to protect and serve, externally we don't recognize that his picture of whom he's serving are his white neighbors.
He's not conscious of that.
I think he's conscious of whom he's serving. And what his white neighbors and he have learned from birth is that these objects are the threats to us. And so if you listen to what happened in the steps leading up to Floyd's death, he was ne'er do well, trying to pass a counterfeit $20 bill, and he deserves whatever he gets. And we're going to keep this community under control so they don't come bringing their problems over to to our community. And so the policeman was doing his job as he proceeded.
Yes, Black Lives Matter, and yes, we need to end racism, and yes, prejudice is wrong, and yes, Black and brown people have had less opportunities, less privilege, and then we have the backlash from, well, everybody's been discriminated at some point, and what about the Native Americans? And, there's, not all whites have had privilege, and that whole thing has then been tied to, well, what a defunding of the police, and let's not, no more money to the police because they're using it to discriminate and show prejudice. And then there's no Blue Lives Matter because they are just as important. They're just doing their job. And, this is way gone over to the other extreme. So take a breath. Please help me untangle the tension and the mess that we are currently living through right now because of not what started with George Floyd. This started a long time ago. This started with the whole, I remember, when slavery was abolished, and I was told that the slave owners were compensated. The slaves weren't compensated. The slave owners were compensated for taking their slaves being taken away. So all of this has started long ago. But I have to admit, meeting you has changed my way of what is the solution. Before, I would say it is repatriation, admitting that wrong has been done, putting things in place to rectify what the wrong in place. We've been doing that, and it hasn't exactly worked out the way we were hoping to. So help me with the, what do we need to do?
First response, I don't know, but I can tell you what my thoughts are. Okay. For as long as Blacks have suffered in the United States, Irishmen suffered at the foot of Englishmen who controlled them for more than 100 years. And they were the same color. Okay. So
go figure, right?
Okay. That relationship created sharecropping. Irish couldn't own the land. The Englishmen owned the land. So to survive, the Irishmen did the work, and the first fruits of the work went to the Englishmen. And that they brought that across to the United States. So I'm saying a long history of this.
Before Black and brown.
Yes. And in my lifetime, the truth not told about that, if you'll pardon the expression, and I'm certain there were others, but Irishmen were the first niggers.
Whoa.
With the British.
Okay.
And they didn't, and the romanticized history refused to tell that story. There were signs in windows in the Northeast that said Irish need not apply.
I do believe that this is the kind of honest dialogue that needs to happen. Otherwise, we continue to romanticize what is going on.
Yes, and so that part of the story doesn't get told, and so the implication of the silence is, see, we solved the problem. We solved our problem in my lifetime. So the evolutionary parade, first the Irish broke the cycle, then the Polish broke the cycle, and now the Blacks and Browns are in the same process, and they get vilified. We get vilified.
Right.
Sports became the primary vehicle for that evolution. The University of Notre Dame, football, Irish Catholics. Irish because the Irish, poor marginalized Irish boys working in the steel mills of Pennsylvania and the coal mines. If you built up your body, you could get a scholarship to Notre Dame and play football and break the cycle for your family to get them out of the Irish ghetto. And so the Irish got known as the Fighting Irish.
Wow. Wow.
Followed by the Polish, now by the Negroes. And I have said publicly, if you follow the same pattern, the Irish would be, Notre Dame would be now known as the Fighting Negroes. And the whole world would explode in anger.
Right.
It's the same pattern. So Hollywood handled it for the Italians. They started glamorizing the Italian mobsters, but the mobsters of 2023 are black and brown. And you want to close the border and incarcerate all the black boys.
Right.
Step one, tell the truth.
Quit
So
romanticizing.
so we can begin a dialogue in search of solutions.
Right.
You can't solve what you haven't properly diagnosed. And I don't know what the solution will look like when it comes out of it, but I am thoroughly committed to dialogue that begins the exploration, and the dialogue must begin with telling the truth.
There's so many ways in which we truly need the principles that can help us out of our addictions to whatever it is, and we can truly meet my mission, which is to be happy 88% of the time. Caldwell, can you do this with me? Peace in.
Peace in.
Peace out.
Peace out.
World peace.
Peace.
Through inner peace.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Lovely.
Congratulations. Congratulations, doctor. Wonderful. And nowhere else on the planet yet published. So we need to get this into the mainstream.
Yay!
Well
I was
done.
a little concerned because you were like the whole time. I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't like it. And I knew Farron liked it because he opened his heart. I love it when my guests cry because it means, tears are the disinfectant that keep our hearts soft. And thank you, Farron, for sharing your heart. And I'm so glad that it moved you to tears, not once, but I think 3 times. And I get that. I've cried so many times just making this. And it's a labor of love. It's taken me probably 88 hours. And for the majority of those hours, it was from 11 p.m. until 2:30 in the morning, especially this last 2 weeks, because I'm working with an editor in Poland to keep the costs down. So just so you know, I have not had much sleep because of you, but it was totally worth it. Watching Farron feel the words of yours And we started with a vision of a little bit different, with the 8 questions. But I realized in creating this that there were salient messages that were beyond the answering questions about veterans and suicide and all of that, that it was most important to get your, the candid part of the conversation about racism, the critical, key, salient, different than the rhetoric that's going around now. That
You did
got
it.
out.
You
I
did
did
it
it.
well. Yes, yes. And I was experiencing intensity, so I apologize for what was showing on my face.
No
Ron and I know
apologies
one
needed.
another very well, and we've talked about these things. And I'm in my mind, my mind is being literally blown. Like, she captured it. She captured it over and over again. And now we've got work to do.
And the tears are because 99% of that was my life. The objectification, the transition, the suicide. Like,
Take a deep breath.
like,
I feel it, and
like
I
that's,
know.
if we told the truth, there's so much freedom when we tell the truth. And we are suffering in silence and don't even realize it's right there.
In the romantic story, we contend that we recognize the importance of truth. Truth will make you free. We do the slogan, and then we keep lying.
Yeah. Well, I am so delighted. We're out of time. I knew this was going to be tight, but I'm glad we got it all in. I got your reactions. I appreciate the appreciation. I'm so glad that you approve of it, and that it definitely got you. And that was the goal of this. And you have.
And I was behind the camera the whole time. And still, I'm still touched.
I want to say to Dr. Marissa, you are way out in front of the whole planet in this regard.
Yes.
And so there with lies some responsibility to get it into the mainstream, the blood of the nation. There are people with resources who want to leave a legacy, but they've got gatekeepers that we must get past so they can see this possibility.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that's it. Y'all know it's all about balance. Do this with me one last time. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from her living room with the amazing Caldwell Williams, captured now in 40 minutes and 40 seconds. We're going to shop that. And Farron, thank you so much for your part in this and being such a support to him. Now go. And you've been listening to Take My Advice. I'm Not Going to Get Balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. Tomorrow, come back. Love you all.
Peace out.